So today's masterclass is mainly focused on how uh, to build a leadership career in cybersecurity. And before we proceed ahead, here we go. I would like to introduce our speaker today, where his name is Abhijit Tripathy, where Abhijit is one of a global recognized senior GRC and cybersecurity strategist with over a decade of experience across compliance, forensic, and also hands-on security. He has led high profile like ransomware and ATM fraud investigations and conducting audits, risk management, and WAP engagements across banking, healthcare, and also manufacturing sectors. Knowing the bridging compliance and technical execution, he integrates ISO and many multiple practical security programs with 50 plus certifications. And he's a passionate global educator who has trained high profiles Indian government officials and served as a guest lecturer in Indian IIT and delivering the training worldwide. So he's currently involved in multiple US-based GRC and audit projects, including the HIPAA compliance engagements, and has created a comprehensive audit manual for US market. And he has been invited by DOT and also a PR publication featuring on CNN and News 18, and played a key cybersecurity role associated with FIFA World Cup Qatar, which is 2022, and which is reflecting his global impact. So thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Abhijit Tripathi, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Yashwant, and the entire upGrad team. Uh, so it's been a pleasure. I have been associated with upGrad since many years now, and it's been always a pleasure because training is a passion for me. And with this saying so, I would like to invite all our participants who has taken out time to join this webinar. I would make sure that we have a fruitful 1 hour of information sharing. So let me quickly share my screen and let's talk about the agenda and let's get started. So just a moment here. Okay. All right. So I believe my screen is visible to everyone. Anyone from the
Yes.
upGrad? Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for the confirmation. And okay, so now let us quickly go to the main agenda of this webinar is how to build a leadership career in cybersecurity and GRC. So before we get into how to build a career, let us understand what is cybersecurity, what is GRC, how they're interconnected. You know, GRC is something which everyone talks about, and it's been very it's a very common term nowadays in the world of cybersecurity. So let's try to understand what exactly are these cybersecurity GRC, and then we'll talk about where to begin from, and then we are going to talk about some certifications as well. I strongly believe the fact that experience is something which is very important, but again, there is requirement of certifications as well, because there is a thing about ideal world and the real world. We'll talk about that. So let's get started. So let's start right from the beginning. What is cybersecurity? Now, in simple sentence, protecting what matters. You know, in the field of digital world, protecting what matters. When we talk about protecting the confidentiality, integrity, and availability, what do we have in cyber world? We would be having endpoints, we would be having cloud platforms, we would be having network, we would be having applications. So protecting the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of these people, process, technology, which are involved in the digital world, is called cybersecurity. Now, the same thing is mentioned here: confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and it covers security operation, incident response, threat detection, vulnerability management. So these are all different things which, combining together, forms a robust control if, what we say, if they're implemented properly. to protect the people, process, technology, and the um, and it forms the cybersecurity. Now, when we talk about cybersecurity and GRC, how they are related, we understand cybersecurity is pretty common, but how it is related to GRC. So these are majorly two sides of the same coin. Now, I have separately created a diagram to get into a little bit in depth about the GRC with an example. So you can see that GRC stands for governance, risk, and compliance. It's a combination of three words. When we talk about governance, as you can see, governance is the system that defines who makes decision, what rules exist, and how IT aligns with business goals. Because in the business sector, no matter how good your controls are, but if they're not aligning with the business objectives, then that would not be a fruitful output for the organization. Organization definitely wants security, but there is a cost benefit analysis. We would never want the control to be more expensive than the profit you're getting from an asset. So that is very important. So governance stays at the strategic level, at the top level, deciding on these parts. And then comes the risk management part, the R part. So risk management is the process to identifying, analyzing, and reducing threats that could impact systems or data. Because at the end of the day, if any risk is beyond a certain level, if it is, we always, when we go deep into risk, we talk about risk criteria, risk capacity, risk tolerance. So anything which goes beyond the tolerance level, we would like to mitigate the risk using controls. But first of all, we need to know about the risks. What are the possible risks to our asset? So that is what, in a nutshell, these are the things which comes under risk management. Because without managing risks, you cannot, implement. How can I say that my environment is secure if I don't know in the first place what are the possible risks? So for that, you have to be very vigilant. There should be a 360-degree observation, and that's what comes under the risk management part. Then comes compliance. So compliance is ensuring that the systems and processes follow required laws, regulations, and standards. So I've taken an example. Let's say, governance says that management mandates. So the governing body says that, okay, from today onwards, all the customers' data which is in the cloud must be encrypted and assigned. The task is assigned to the IT security team. But did this decision came out of the blue? No. There must have been something which was found, something which have caused an issue. So governing body says that, no, we need to spend on encrypting these things. So where did that come from? It came from probably the found risks. So you can see the example which I've given for risk management. During a risk assessment, the team discovered that cloud storage is not encrypted, which creates both, data breach, and also it's a non-compliance for a lot of regulations and standards like GDPR and PCI DSS. So this is where the need arose. There is a risk which was found based on which it's a critical risk. It is not acceptable to the organization. So something must be done. Otherwise, there are consequences. In this case, consequences, breach of PII information, heavy amount of fines, a lot of other things. Like we all know the example of Equifax again. So compliance, again, how do we know that it's non-compliant? We should first of all know about the compliances. Probably your organization might be aligned to some standards like ISO 27001. There might be local or global standards or regulations which your country or your company has to align with, because probably you're dealing with global audience, global customers. So knowing about that comes under the compliance part of GRC. So you can see that when you combine these, they're all interrelated. One thing complements other. The output of one becomes the input of the other. Like the output of risk management, the risk which was found becomes an input, gives a, it becomes an input to the decision makers that, okay, what should be done now? Because the risk is pretty high. It's not acceptable. So it's like a symphony. One thing complements the other, but it has to be in sync. Miscommunication creates disaster, and that is what we don't want. So this is about GRC, and this is how they sync together. Knowing about GRC is important because that's what we are talking about in the cybersecurity and GRC and how to build a career. So we should know about this first. So thought of starting with this. So you can now, I think everyone would strongly believe that, strong security, you might be having the best of the best security, amazing equipments, expensive, but without GRC, which is the control, the gearbox. It's a chaos. We don't know where to spend. I mean, what are our critical information? Absence of GRC means you might not even be having data classification. Data might not have been properly classified. You might not have done a BIA, business impact analysis, where you try to categorize your critical processes first so that anything goes wrong, you try to save your critical processes. Based on that, you define your business continuity and disaster recovery. But if you simply have policies for PC and DR just for the sake of having it, but they do not sync. So whenever a disaster strikes, maybe you started with those policies and procedures, but you ended up saving the non-critical processes because you didn't even have a proper register knowing that which is critical, which is not. So this is what happens when GRC is missing or GRC is not in sync. So strong GRC without security again is a problem. You have everything, but I mean, it's just papers, not implemented. So now, the people process technology model. This is very important because any organization, depends on the proper working of people. They should be well skilled. Awareness should be there. A company culture should be built for cybersecurity, and accountability, responsibility. So everyone knows about their jobs and roles and responsibilities. Processes should be there, dedicated. Documentation, this is what we call the administrative controls comes into picture. Documented process, procedures should be there. Well-tested version control should be there so that nothing goes outdated. And obviously you would be having the technology. So when these things are in sync, everything goes really well. You have some really amazing technologies, but people are not well trained on that, that would cause an issue. On the other hand, people are very well skilled, but they don't have the right kind of technology, that would also cause issue. So these three, again, should be in proper sync. Now, moving further. Yeah. So what are the core security principles? Now, CIA, as we have already discussed, that anything in the world, when you talk about, because it's all about protection, so anything in the world, if you talk about cybersecurity, what we are protecting confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality means preventing unauthorized access to information. Integrity means ensure data is accurate, not modified. And availability means that when an authorized subject or entity needs the information is available. Now, so every security control exists to protect one or more of these elements. Let's take an example. So in all the organizations, the most basic thing is we classify our data. There are different methods we can follow: top secret, confidential, sensitive, public. Now you can see that how the things would change, how the controls will change. Let's talk about a top secret graded data. So when the data is top secret, confidentiality does matter. We don't want any unauthorized person to access that. Let's say your company's trade secret. Also, we don't want the data to be modified, so integrity does matter. Availability, it's okay. That would be a secondary thing. I mean, something which is very critical, like your bank applications, bank makes it a little bit tough for you to get the access because confidentiality and integrity comes first in that case. It's very critical information. But let's move a little bit down at the data classification level. What about public data? Anything which is public, confidentiality does not matter because we have made it public. So we don't want to hide that information. But the other two aspects does matter. I mean, let's say we talk about media. They have a news which they have to publish. But before publishing the information, it was confidential. If that gets leaked, that's a big problem. But when they publish it, it's public. Confidentiality does not matter, but availability and integrity still matters. The information should be as they want it to be. It should not be modified. It should not be different from what they wanted to publish. And also, it should be available to the readers or to the viewers. So these two still matter. So that's what I'm trying to say, is that we have to a good amount of thought has to be given to what kind of controls are suitable at what category. Is just one example. There are a lot of different aspects, but again, the foundation is we are protecting either the confidentiality or the integrity or the availability or all three of them or any two of these. Depends from scenario to scenario. Now, other important thing is IEEE. Any kind of controls that you implement, majorly when we talk about identity and access. So this is the sequence which has been followed. So first thing we need is, what is your identity? Now, once the identity is given, let's say, for example, username is an identity, but your password is not an identity. It's an authentication mechanism where, it says that, okay, I got your username, but how would I know that you are authentic? So that is where your factors come into picture. OTPs, single factor, two factor, multi-factors comes into picture. Like, two factor is ATM card. Card is something you have, PIN is something you know. Now, the thing is, once you are authentic, that doesn't mean you will be getting all the access. That is where authorization comes into picture. That means we know that you are authentic, but I'm not going to give you all the access. Access will be given only based on what you are authorized to have an access. So that is another layer of protection. And once you're authorized, is it that you can do anything and everything with the resource that has been granted to you? Not exactly. That's where accountability comes into picture. As long as you as the subject has an access to the information, any action that you perform, it should be monitored. That comes under non-repudiation. And also you are accountable for anything that you are doing with the information. So that those controls should also be there in place. So again, these are the two major, what you call principles, which you bring out any control in the world, no matter how sophisticated it might be, but it's protecting CIA, and it would be either a part of IAAA. Nothing goes beyond this. So it was good to know about these things. Now, moving further, another important thing is, so why I'm bringing these is because as I mentioned, that when you're talking about building a career in cybersecurity and GRC, the foundations are very, very important, because you can see that technology would keep on advancing, but the foundations, the models, these principles, they are always going to be the same. Identity would always be there. The method of verifying the identity, method of authorizations will keep on changing. So the foundation should be very clear. Also, another important thing is that we should stay sync with all the modern technologies and advancements. Like nowadays, cloud first strategies are highly used. Organizations want to move more into the cloud environment. Software as a service, infra as a service, widely used. AI driven solutions are again very widely used. Automations are very widely used. Now, again, if these are used, then if you want to pursue a career, when you talk about leadership careers, so a good knowledge about handling this at a governance level is very, very important. Now, uh, the key industry trends which are shaping the cybersecurity and GRC are cloud computing, of course. So then AI and automations, which is again very widely used. Uh, Remote and hybrid works, because nowadays, there's a lot of trend after the COVID that, remote working, it's highly, been practiced in different organizations. Also, evolving laws and regulations. We talk about GDPR for protecting your PI information. Every country has their own version of GDPR as well. And then you talk about HIPAA for protecting your health information, for example, and PCI DSS for the card details. So now the thing is that because majority of the companies are going global, so they also have to make sure that they're not only following their own country's regulations and standard, but also whatever country they're doing business with. So compliance part of the GRC, that is also very, very important. In today's world, it's a global, what you call arena is what I would say. So we have to, the companies dealing with IT have to align with multiple laws, regulations, standards spread across multiple countries. So that becomes again very important. So these are the new trends which we should be very well versed with if we want to have pursue a good career in leadership, especially in GRC and cybersecurity, because here we are focusing on the leadership part. Now, another important thing when you talk about, the whole hierarchy of any organization is the voice at the bottom. Now you can see that most of the, I mean, it's a big issue even during audits, which I have faced in many organizations, is that people who are in the leadership role in that organization might not have started from the scratch. But in cybersecurity, it's very, very important that you start from the scratch. And that's what we're going to discuss in a while from now. That's where, the whole discussion is moving towards. The problem arises because, anything, executive decisions, they should be strategically driven. But again, they should be operationally grounded as well. The voice at the bottom should reflect at the top. The requirements at the bottom should reflect at the top. Only then the decisions which are made at the top would be complementing the requirements at the lower levels of the organization. That is what we call a sync. And this sync in many organizations, I would say in the capability maturity model, the maturing organizations is where I would say this particular part is a huge gap. Now, how to fill this gap? This gap can only be filled if the people who are in the leadership role are current. No doubt that's a big requirement, but also their foundations are pretty strong, so they can relate to what the operation is saying, what the tactical team is saying, and not just keep on, what do you call, releasing policies on the fly. So that is very, very important. Now, that's why, if you talk about a good leadership, that should start from the grassroots level. And in cybersecurity, we have multiple phases. All these phases, all these parts, a good knowledge is required, in all the parts, if we want to pursue a successful career in leadership in cybersecurity. We'll talk about that in a while. Now let's talk about career growth. Now, there are three levels in any organization, especially in cybersecurity. We've got the operational level, we've got the tactical level, and we've got the strategic level. Strategic level is the highest level. So one of the simplest way to define this is, strategic level is all about uh, why we are doing something and when it needs to be done. When you talk about operations, it is about uh, what needs to be done. When you talk about tactical, it's about how it's to be done. Like, when we talk about the strategic level, all the executives they play this role, like the CTO, the CEO of the company, the chief risk officer, the chief finance officer. Tactical is where, the intention of the higher authorities here, it's like how to achieve that intention is what tactical level decides. Like, for example, if your organization says that we need to implement something, this is a new policy, AI is, in boom, we are very extensively using AI. We need to have a policy for AI and a procedure for using uh, AI, but in a secure way. That is the intention which is coming from the strategic level. But how to achieve that is the responsibility of the tactical planners. And once how is answered, what needs to be done on a day to day to achieve the objective, achieve the goal, that is operations. So now you can see that this is how the hierarchy is. I kept operation first because people who have worked on the operational level then moved to the tactical level and then finally have moved to the strategic level. They do really well in the leadership roles because they know, they have tasted, or they have seen the environment at each level. So when they make decisions, they are on point. They're very, you know, to the point, and they complement all the other layers as well. So that is what I meant. Now, how to achieve this? So what I explained right now, that, okay, we need to start from operations, then tactical, then strategic. So in different, what you call, uh, because we're talking about cybersecurity and GRC, but again, there are a lot of other branches. But when you talk about security, for example, when you talk about cybersecurity and GRC, so in order to achieve this, uh, there is, there are two things that should run in parallel. First is your experience in an organization on these aspects. Also, the knowledge that you gain from certifications. So because as I mentioned, that both are equally important. I have seen people who have just gained experience by working for many years in an organization, but at times I've also seen, because I've trained many people worldwide belonging to different designations. I have trained same people multiple times in multiple different, when they, they shift, they change their role. Also, I've seen people who have been in the same role for many years. Now the thing is that, if we are not upgrading ourselves, then things become very monotonous. That is a big issue and a big no-no in cybersecurity. We cannot just stand still at a point because every day things are evolving. So what to do? Where to start from? So in the world of cybersecurity, we always start with offensive security. So offensive security, as I mentioned, it's early career because we get to know about uh, uh, you know like for example, what are you trying to protect? Any attack, any incident, any hacking event? So why not start with understanding that how these are actually done, so that we can read the hacker's mind in a better way. So you can see that in offensive security, like most enthusiasts in cybersecurity, I would highly recommend that you start with, understanding the concepts of offensive security, like vulnerability identifications, exploitation techniques, the Lockheed Martin kill chain, which has been used. What are the different attacks which are done in different phases of those 7 steps? And understanding the attack tactics, techniques, and procedures, and doing hands-on on different kinds of attacks, how the attacks are done on web application, how it is done on network, how it is done on endpoint devices, IoT devices. So there are a few. Now, whatever certifications I'm mentioning here, it's not like these are the only ones, but these are the most well-known ones. That's the reason why these are given as an example. Like for example, EC Council, CH, Certified Ethical Hacker. They also provide CPENT, which is a highly practical way of understanding ethical hacking, and OSCP, which is Offensive Security Certified Professional. This is considered as one of the most well-known. In fact, some people consider it as one of the toughest certification in the world of offensive security, is what I would say. But my point is, I'm not saying that go for all the certifications, but um, these are the ones which are pretty well known, which will give you a good understanding about how the offensive security happens, actually, how the hacking takes place, what all things are covered under offensive security. But then saying so, certification is not enough. You should have some experience in at the industry level. You should have done some VAPT, some pen testing, so that you understand that how it happens in the real world. Now, once you are well versed with offensive security concepts, then you go to defensive, because now you know how the attack happens. Now the next step should be that how to protect. If this is how the attack takes place, then how to protect. So that is the next phase where defensive security comes into picture. It's more about all the protection techniques which are used for protecting network from any kind of attack, or endpoint devices or applications. It could be like when you are in an organization, most of the time the company sponsors your certifications for this, because depending on what tools they might be using, like if Palo Alto, uh, you know, uh, is used, you have PCNSA, which is Palo Alto Network Security Administrator, and then Palo Alto Network Security Engineer. Similarly, Fortinet also provides network security expert, and there are a lot of others. I'm not saying these are the only ones, but I'm trying to say even EC Council provides CND, Certified Network Defender. There are a lot of other certifications as well. However, these are majorly for you to understand the defense mechanism, because you know how the attack takes place, and now you need to understand how the defense mechanism works. How to protect is again very important. Another important certificate is, I mean, that's like an umbrella certificate. It's for the beginners who just want to start a career in cybersecurity, but they do not want to directly get into or indulge into practicals, but want to understand the concepts at a very grassroots level. Again, CompShare provides a lot of variety of certifications. One of the most well-known is Security Plus, now 701. You can start with that. Now, once you're well versed with offensive and defensive, then you go for the early mid career. That is where you have reached your early mid career, where monitoring, incident response, these are the things which you should be well versed with. Like, for example, now you're good with understanding the attacks because you have done it, you have done hands-on on that, you've got experience on that, and also you know about defense mechanisms. So now, based on those knowledge, you can be good at monitoring and incident response as well, because you understand the incidents really well. So that becomes the third point. Here, majorly, you should target learning the concepts about alert triage. That means what are the criticality of the alerts. Log analysis, forensic comes here. Evidence handling, incident, communication, how the incident should be communicated at different levels. So what I would say is that here is where you would be, you should focus on understanding how to respond to an incident, how to investigate an incident. This is where, some of the well-known certificates are like ECIH, which is again certified, it's a council certified incident handler. EDRP, because when there is an incident, there is also BC and DR. Because if there is an incident, something has been hampered, some asset has been hampered, because of which the asset might be not available. Business continuity means how we are still going to, continue with the business. Maybe a failover if the web server fails. Disaster recovery is if that's a disaster, how you're going to recover, how you're going to fix that asset or the scenario. That comes as a part of DR, where the backup, imaging, and other things comes into picture. Few examples. So these kind of concepts again are also very important, because there is an incident, you definitely would be taking care of the incident, but the unavailability created because of the incident, that's also a loss to the company, because the resource is not available, maybe it's a critical one. So BC makes sure that you still are able to continue with some alternate sources. So BCDR goes hand in hand when any incident takes place. So this is where these kind of concepts is something you would be, it would be good you start your understanding, you build your understanding on these concepts. CHFI again is dedicated to forensic investigations, which is very, very useful, because if any incident has taken place, you talk about, if an endpoint has been affected by virus. I know that many organizations, they use multiple tools, CrowdStrike, normal, and what do you call threat, Malwarebyte is very frequently used. There are n number of tools which are used, but there is a limitation to tools. Understanding at the ground level how the operating systems function, how the malware does a lateral movement, having a brief understanding about, the reverse engineering part. Because in my career, I have very extensively worked on malwares. I'll give you a simple example. A malware, when it gets executed in your environment, the code which is written might be, it's capable of doing 10 different things, but it might have executed only 2 out of those, which your security tool gave you as an alert. But if you know reverse engineering, you can dissect, and you can know that what are the 7 other things or 8 other things which it is capable of doing, but it's not yet executed. So you can be proactively prepared. Just a small example. So that's the reason why, going into deep here, as much deep as you can, going into deep would be very useful in your future career. Also, SOC, Security Operations Center, eyes and ears of any organization when it comes to any incident. So understanding how the SOC functions is very important. So you can go for certifications like CSA, Certified SOC Analyst, again provided by AC Council. And threat intelligence is a thing in today's world, because a new threat has emerged, but you don't know about it. How will you protect? So understanding how the threat intelligence works, how threat hunting should be done efficiently is very important. For that, there is CTIA, which is Threat Intelligence and Analyst. Again, a certification which talks about different ways you can gather threat intelligence, which is very, very important. Now, once you are well versed, then you move to the next stage, where security architecture and design, the mid-career. This is where you should have skills like secure by design, architecture, and system review, balancing usability, security, compliance requirements, integrating security into cloud, hybrid environments. This is where, you are more into the higher tactical part, like how to achieve the goals. Why? Because you're very well versed with offensive, defensive, monitoring, auditing, and when you make the sum total of this, you are very well versed in taking some big decisions. Because now when you make your decisions on how to achieve the intention of the higher entities like the strategic planners, you will be thinking at a 360-degree level. Because okay, what kind of attacks can take place, that what are the defensive part, it very well, might have worked on multiple products, the monitoring part as well, the logging part as well, and the IR PCDR part as well. So you'd be the right person to take care of the security architecture. Also, to enhance your knowledge, there are many different certifications. This is where I would say that if you are at this phase of your career, you are highly eligible for higher certifications like CISSP, which is provided by ISO Square, considered as one of the highest certifications in cybersecurity. CRISC, which talks about risk management, again provided by ISACA. A good knowledge about cloud is very important. So CCSP and CCSK, these are majorly, they talk about cloud security part. Obviously, cloud vendors, they do have their own certifications, but this is majorly about how to securely secure usage of cloud environment. So these are the certifications which you can pursue at this particular. Before this, I generally don't recommend, but when you have reached, when you know that, okay, you're well versed, because especially in CISSP, I know that many people, it's a dream for them to get CISSP certified, but pursue this certification when you are at this level, because the 8 domains and 21 chapters of CISSP revolve around what we have so far discussed. And I've seen people, those who just in the beginning of their career go for CISSP, they face a lot of issue because they do not have experience, and CISSP questions are majorly experience based. So that's the thing. Now, moving further, audit, risk and compliance. Now, after we have worked on the architecture part, we have worked on the IR BCDR part, we know about offensive security, we know about logging monitoring, we know about, so now once we are well versed with everything, we are good for auditing those as well, right? Because any flaw, who would be a good auditor? Who understands the whole the whole thing, the whole play. So now with this kind of experience, you can definitely move to understanding auditing, risk and compliances. So this is where you would be having responsibility, where you would also make sure that whatever laws, regulations and standards, not only that, but whatever your company policy says, are you aligning with those? You might be having external audits, but internal audits would be supervised by you, so that you make sure that you're well prepared for the external audits. Any audit requirements, you prepare your organization to fulfill those requirements. So in this case, certifications like CISA would be a good certificate here, because Certified Information System Auditor is something which is provided by ISACA, is a very well-known certification for auditing. AI, for AI, we have advanced in AI auditing. So that is again provided by ISACA. The prerequisite is you should have a CISA certificate, and ISO 27001 lead auditor. So these are also very well-known certifications which tells you how to now audit, the tactics of auditing, I would say. ISO 27001 is all about information security management system audit. So now I would not say that, because I don't think all organizations follow or are accredited by ISO, but yeah, it's pretty good, especially the controls, the 93 controls they talk about in what do you call 27002. So those are very useful to understand. I mean, I'm not saying that you blindly follow, but you can always customize. But standards, why do we say standards? Because as I said, that why to reinvent the wheel when something is out there? You can always go through the NIST standards and ISO standards and customize it as per your requirements, if your requirement is not to get a certification or accreditation from these bodies, right? So that's the thing. So I think, just a moment, let me see if there's a question, I believe. Okay. I believe I'm audible to everyone, guys, so far.
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So let's proceed. So now this is where, auditing, risk and compliance, as I was mentioning, that at this point, when you're well versed with the first 4 points, that would be, then you can move to the auditing rules and you can go for audit. Because I've also seen people who have these certifications, but ultimately what you're going to audit, how can you audit something which you have no idea about, right? You have never worked on certain aspects of cybersecurity. So people get stuck. So it's always good to take your time before moving to the auditing part. Spend some good amount of time in the first 4 categories. Moving further, then comes management and program ownership. This is where the senior career role comes into picture. Security program planning, executions and measurement, budgeting, prioritization. Because from here, the budgeting would play a very important role, because you understand what security is all about, how much secure your information should be. Now you understand what is the criticality of each and every information, what is the criticality of each and every process in your organization. Once someone knows these informations, he or she would be a very good decision maker when it comes to, how much to invest, what should be the budgeting part, because you would be good at the cost benefit analysis part. Because end of the day, when you talk about the business sector, anything that you do or any decision that would be taken, it should align with the business objective. That is the thumb rule. So this is where you understand the cybersecurity, you understand all the other aspects, but now you're moving towards the business aspects as well, so that your decisions, anything that you take in the field of cybersecurity, does provide security, but also aligns with the business objective. So those kind of decisions would be expected at this particular role. Now, it's a crucial role, is what I would say, because you saved some money for the organization and decided to implement some controls, but the control failed and the company ended up losing triple the amount. So you will be questioned for that. So you have to be very careful about, so you should understand in and out the security concepts, in and out all the processes that's scattered in your organization, and also you should be a good decision maker. You should understand the budgeting part as well very well, and you have to make sure that these are all in sync. Here there is a certificate which is provided by ISACA, Certified Information System Manager. So security manager. Now, this is specifically for those who are in information security field, and now they have moved, or they want to move from the security to a managerial role. So it is more, again, tactical in nature as well. You will be working on the how part. So then, spending a good amount of time here at point number 6 is very important, because after this, when the point number 7 comes into picture, that is the executive level, it's very lucrative. I completely understand. But it's easy, I've seen people who by constantly, I would not say, staying in the company for a pretty good amount of time, they reach this position, but sustaining there is a challenge. I've seen people who do wonders at executive level, who have spent a good amount of time in all the 6 stages which I just mentioned about. They gathered good amount of knowledge through the certifications, because certification is not everything, but it does play a very important role, because you have to see that books talk about the ideal world, and then we have the real world. But we first of all need to understand what the ideal information is, what is, how it has to be, and then we try to implement it how it would be suitable in our environment. But for that, we need to first of all understand in the raw form that how it is actually in the reality. So that's the reason why. And also, it becomes really tough to cope, on a daily busy, schedule, to, cope with all the new advancements going in the cybersecurity world. So time and again, having certifications definitely takes care of this gap. But then nothing can beat experience as well. So what you study, you need to implement. So that's why when people who have spent a good amount of time in the previous stages, when they reach the executive level, they understand the tone, they understand the entire voice, from operations to tactical to strategic, and they become fabulous decision makers. Now, what are the skills which are required? Enterprise risk oversight, strategic direction is very important, because any wrong decision here would be affecting the whole hierarchy, would be affecting all the other stages. Policy settling and setting and regulatory alignments is, again, an executive and board level communications is very important. There are certain certifications, like if you're a CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer. CISO is like a bridge between the strategic and tactical. So, uh, and then there is another certificate by ISACA, which is called CGIT. So CGIT revolves around governance in enterprise IT. How will you implement, uh, you know, cybersecurity governance in the enterprise IT? So now you can see that we are not talking about management, we are talking about governance. So this definitely covers a lot of important critical aspects, which would be very useful. But again, these certifications would be of no use without experience. In fact, these certifications demand you to have at least 4 to 5 years of experience in cybersecurity, in managerial roles and other things. So then you move to the executive level. So this becomes the highest level, but you can see the path to reach the executive level is what I was trying to, explain, that, these are the phases. If you follow this pattern, you have experience, you get your certifications, experience certifications, understand, implement, spend good amount of time, and then you move to the executive level. You would become, as I said, a amazing decision maker, and your decisions would be having good impact, very effective impact in the organization's upliftment. So these are the phases. Now, moving further, certifications are as career, do they actually accelerate the career? Why certifications matter? So what they provide is they validate structured knowledge, create a common professional language. Now you can see that, as I was mentioning, that it's like a forceful, input of knowledge. Why? Because even I have seen in my own experience, because my experience has been pretty versatile. I have worked on all these phases again and again. The moment I decide to go for a certification, I'm very excited because I get to learn a lot of new things. It's just like they have gathered information and they have put it to you, that, and you take it as a challenge. Always take a challenge, not only to, because I have seen people that they will just attend the training and then they would say, okay, I'm not going for the examination. No, the whole point is that you take the training and go for the examination. That completes the whole circle. And then once you're done with the examination, after that, you, whatever information, I completely understand that whatever you study in the entire course, you're not going to implement all of those, but your knowledge is enhanced. You know everything. It's your choice what you want to implement based on the scenario. So, which is very important. Even the same thing happens in your schools and colleges. Do you implement all the formulas that you have studied in maths examination? No, right? But whenever whatever is required, you know about that. So when the time comes, you know that, okay, this is a solution exists. So doing more certifications enhances your understanding about all the multiple solutions which can be possible if the situation arises. That's the reason why even when I was in forensic, I was doing investigations for certain. I used to go through a lot of case studies because I know that not every day all incidents will take place. But through case studies, I understand that if something similar happens, then I know that, okay, in the past, this was the best solution and probably I can implement something similar here. That is what it is. But then saying so, it creates a common professional language. But then, as I have clearly mentioned here, certifications don't replace your experience. Because if you study something and you don't implement, what is the point? So they help organize and scale it, but you got to implement those things. You got to, what you studied, you have to implement it in your own way. You have to see what is the best fit for the knowledge that you have gained. So that again is your experience. As I mentioned that, uh, training must bridge theory. Okay. Another thing about training is that I've attended a lot of training classes where the training is all about what's been given in the course. But I don't think that's because if I give you the book, you can read. Nowadays with ChatGPT and AI, even you can get analogies. So what is the point of having a classroom training? My way of training is I would say that the trainer should not only cover what's been mentioned, but also simultaneously you have discussions on how to implement it in the real world. Because the book talks about ideal world, but in reality, we are all professionals. We know that there is nothing as ideal world, especially in cybersecurity. So you understand the concept, but you also talk about, let's say, a workshop, let's say a tabletop, which has been organized after maybe on the last day of the training. Because in cybersecurity, this becomes very important. So that, whatever we have studied, we try to implement it. We take a real world scenario and we see that, okay, what is something which is possible? And if something is not possible, then what are the problems? So, that would be a very beneficious training. So as I mentioned, that ideal framework, this is the voice of the book, practical constants, reality of the workplace. So a training should be a balance between both the things. We discuss the topic, but then we also try to take some real life examples, real world examples, and try to align what we have studied. Again, as I said, maturity comes, both are equally important. Certifications at different levels are very important. But then what you have studied in those certifications, what knowledge you have gained, you have to also implement those. So experience plus certification. You cannot ignore either of them. So you have to have both. So experience without structure, because certifications, they give you a structure. So it's a limited scale is what it is. You just know only those scenarios which you have seen in your company. But what about other scenarios? Certification without experience, it's just the bookish knowledge that you have, but you have never implemented it. How would you know that, what would happen in a real world when you implement those things? So both are equally important, but they should be in sync. So strong leaders, they would be applying theory to real world scenarios and translate book knowledge into business values. So if this can be done, then that would be the best thing. And it comes, as I said, gradually. It comes when you have not jumped directly to a certain level, but you have followed the right path, having good amount of time spent in offensive security, defensive security, monitoring, auditing, management. Then you move to the executive level. By that time, you will be very well versed. You at the right time, you've got your certifications, and also you have enhanced your experience at that particular phase, and then you move to the other one, which is very important. So what truly builds a career in cybersecurity and GRC? Bringing it all together, you can see that your fundamentals should be very strong. Alignment with laws, regulations, and standard, you should know about those. Awareness of evolving trends, which is very important. Cloud, AI, automation, new trends. At the leadership role, you have to make decisions keeping in mind the new trends. For example, I'll give a very simple example. Nowadays, we've got a lot of automation tools which are also AI powered for control mapping for compliances, even for GRC. A lot of aspects of GRC, especially from the administrative part, is been provided by different tools. But there are so many tools in the market. So I mean, if still we are following the age-old tradition of documenting, just paperwork, and we haven't experimented with all the automation tools which makes the work very easy. A simple example, control mapping. Your company might have to align with multiple standards. If we start doing control mapping manually, it becomes a task. But nowadays there are tools which can automatically map the controls for you. So but do we know about that? And even if we know about it, do we know how to efficiently use in our company's environment? So that becomes something which is, again, if we keep our eyes and ears open, we take constant workshops and trainings, and then only we'll get to know about these things. Otherwise, we'll be following the age-old method, but that's going to be very time-taking process. Even though now the technology which can fasten the process is out there, but maybe we might not be knowing about it. So that's why awareness of evolving trends is very, very important. Now, effective growth requires operational, tactical, and strategic level. As I said, every level you should spend a good amount of time before going to the leadership role. And all the phases like offensive, defensive, monitoring, auditing, governance, all the domains, all the phases which we talk about, you should have spent a good amount of time there. You understand the concepts really well. Only then, when you move to the leadership role, you would be, I would say, a pro. Again, moving further, the final takeaway, building credibility, not just titles. That's the thing. So you can see balance is essential, experience plus certification, security and compliance, theory and practice. All these things are very important. Now, as you might have seen that in the initial phases, practical is something which is very, because when you talk about offensive security, defensive security, monitoring, auditing, logging, so these are all practical based. You have to do lots of hands-on to understand the concepts. But slowly, when you move towards the higher levels, it becomes a little lesser of practical, but more of the administrative part, more of the management part. But then again, if you have not done hands-on, then how will you manage these things? That is the whole point. So, as I said, that phase-wise, everything should be done in a proper phase. No, none of the phases should be skipped. That's very important. So this is pretty much about it. My whole point. Okay, by the way, before we finish, because I have been talking a lot about AI, so let me just quickly go through this. I added because on 10th of February, there were some new AI certifications which was released as well. So I have also taken a note of that. Could be useful for many of you. So EC Council has launched 3 new AI certifications, in fact 4. First is CAIPM, which is Certified AI Project Manager. So majorly it focuses on AI ML projects, including lifecycle governance, risk management, implementation oversights. Then there is Certified Offensive AI Security Professional, which covers offensive security techniques. Now, this one is especially for offensive AI. And it's a 6 hours examination. And the examination is a combination of questions and scenario-based examination as well. Then for the governance part, they have really, launched Certified Responsible AI Governance Expert. So this focuses on responsible AI governance. Anyone who is in the management or leadership role right now would highly recommend this certification. Um, as you can see that now, AI, every organization in some or the other way is using AI. But governance of AI, how to securely use AI, that is something which is a big issue. I know the standards are there. NIST has released their AI risk management framework. ISO has 42001, which is for AI. But then, are those implemented? How many organizations actually have a proper policy and procedures and processes for secure AI usage? Now, using AI without these is more like, driving a Ferrari without brakes. So that's the reason why I would recommend that before even, the sooner the better. Your organization should have proper compliance related, stuff for AI to, for the secure usage of AI, which is very, very important. And also for AI audit, a good certification which is provided by ISACA, as I mentioned about this earlier as well, advance in AI audit. So these are, some new certifications. The first 3 were launched on 10th of Feb. So I just thought of bringing this to your notice as well. And with this, we come to the end of our discussion. Any questions from anyone? I would love to answer. And I hope this session was useful for all our participants. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abhijit, for sharing your valuable insights with us and
Thank you,
for
sir.
everyone here. And start with the individual course
I think
details.
Rajesh has a question. I'm a project
Yeah.
manager. Okay. Uh, okay. So, yes. So, Rajesh, so may I know how many years of experience you right now have in this field? Okay. So, but yes, because right now what you're dealing with is more, so this is the answer for Rajesh. So right now what you're dealing with is more from a tactical part. So right now, if you at least have 2, 3, or 4 years of experience or more, okay, wow, that's a huge amount of experience. And I would highly recommend that, from a certification perspective, if I would say, CISSP and CGIT. CISSP is from ISC Square and CGIT is from ISACA. CISSP majorly talks about all the aspects of, starting from offensive to defensive to monitoring, auditing, but from a management's perspective and from a governance perspective. Also, it's a highly valued certification. It will give you definitely a huge edge in the market. CGIT, again from ISACA, is all about IT governance. So that would make you very well versed with the governance tactics and techniques that needs to be used. From a certification perspective, these 2 are going to be something which is very, very useful. Again, saying so because plus your experience. So these are the ones which I would recommend. Okay, from the LinkedIn as a fresher. Okay, so as a fresher, I would not say, you know, uh, first focus on cybersecurity. For every fresher who is right now attending this session, I would highly recommend, you know, start your career with offensive security. Because if we don't understand, because everything revolves around, breaches. Cybersecurity is you're securing something, but if you don't know how to how how the at a ground level, how the hacking happens, how the offensive security takes place. You building blocks on top of that, you understand defense and other things, but that would not be much of an use, because first of all you need to understand the tactics, techniques and procedures, the mindset of a hacker. So always start your career taking taking insights about the hacking concepts. The certifications, if you talk about, I would recommend Security Plus 701 and then CH, Certified Ethical Hacker. You can pursue further more certifications like CPENT, LPD, OSCP, but these are the major. CH and Security Plus is what I would recommend, and then get some experience in pen testing, VAPT, conduct some pen testing, do some hands-on, and then you will be moving towards the higher levels. So for a fresher, this is something which I would highly recommend. Even I started my career spending 5 years in offensive security, which has been still helping me a lot. Okay, so Mubarak, I would like to know that, see, there are two things. People come from IT, but not IT security. But I'm very sure that you must be working in IT, but you are not yet moved to IT security, because these are two different things. Many might be working in IT, but you might not be having the understanding about IT security. So if that's the case, you're already in IT, then I would highly recommend that you go for courses where you understand about. If you say zero knowledge, then I would highly recommend that Security Plus 701 is a very good certification to start with, and move to CH, because CH is more practical based, Certified Ethical Hacker, from a certification perspective. So these would definitely take care about building your understanding about how the offensive security works. Security Plus is not only about offensive security, but as I mentioned, all the seven phases which I showed you, it's just like buffet. It has taken a little bit from everywhere. Okay. So Mubarak, if you are not into IT, then I would recommend that you sharpen your IT skills first. What are the IT skills? See, uh, everything in IT is built up majorly couple of. So we have endpoint devices. These endpoint devices would be having an operating system. These operating systems would be having an application, and then you connect it through a network. So start with basic certifications, understanding the basics of networking. Network Plus, again provided by CompTIA, is a very good certification. Server Plus is a very good certification to understand servers. You start with basics of understanding servers, networks, and then move towards Security Plus and CH. Because by this time you would have understood IT, things which are used in IT, the servers, the networks, and all. Basic concepts once clear, then you move to entry level, certifications. That is what I would recommend, because you do not belong to this field, like you have no experience in IT. So you start with certifications like Network Plus, Server Plus, understand the concepts. Then you move to CH and all. That would make sense, right? Okay, so Harshal is asking, working as a software engineer. Okay, in AI and pursuing MS in AI security. So I think that's a very good skill, Harshal, to move into AI governance, because in today's world, uh, as I mentioned, that everyone is using AI in some or the other way. But governance is something which is missing. And people who are into AI governance, they do not have the adequate experience. I mean, the raw material is what I would say, because just having a certification which is for AI audit, I mean, without having deep down knowledge becomes an issue in itself. So as I can see with your experience, if you go for certifications on AI audit, or the EC Council certifications for governance is what I would recommend for you, because I think the technical knowledge is something which you already have. So that would tell you, and also understanding standards like ISO 42001. Just download the standard NIST risk management for AI. NIST is again free. You can simply download it, read about it, because these things will tell about how to audit an AI, how to govern AI usage, because that is what you need now, because you want to move into that field. So with your experience, if you go for certifications like ISACA's AI audit, advanced in AI audit certificate, or EC Council's certification on AI audit, which I just showed, I'll just show it to you once again. That is Craig, Certified Responsible AI Governance Expert. With these certifications, you can enter the market and you know pursuing a career in AI governance, because that is something which is a huge gap in today's world. So there are a lot of job requirements, but then, I mean, we don't have too much of experienced people. So with these certifications, you know AI in and out, but you also now understand how to govern those, and then you can apply for these job roles. Many companies, are in search for people like this. So this would be my suggestion, Harshal. Security solution architect. Get a well-rounded cybersecurity. Okay, so here's the thing. So guys, now because another question, if you understand AI ML, now if you want to one of the participants' question was that I want now to get into roles where I can audit AI, I can work on AI governance. That's a different thing. But again, there are a lot of people who might be having knowledge on AI ML, but they don't have cybersecurity knowledge. Now, if you want to utilize your AI knowledge, automation knowledge in cybersecurity, there are many different ways you can do that. But for that, you need to now understand the concepts of cybersecurity. You understand AI and ML does not mean you understand cybersecurity part. Let me give you an example. So, because I work in collaboration with many organizations where they work on different tools, like SOAR is a new thing in today's world. So after SIM comes SOAR, where the playbooks are there and the response is automated. So this company, what they have done is, when the logs are captured through different SIM solutions, it's brought together. They have a database of what device has been affected and how critical the device is. And this information is fed to an agentic AI model, where AI takes the decision, because the AI has been trained in that way, that it will take the decision that, okay, based on the criticality of the asset and based on the attack, what playbook is the most suitable, and it will auto execute it. However, because it's still in the learning phase, so manual intervention is required. But that's what the machines, the learning phase of AI is all about. The more mature it becomes, the more you know lesser of human intervention will be required in this case. But what I'm trying to say here is that these kind of machines and models is where we need AI experts who can help us in designing that. But then if you want to pursue a career, AI, but now you need to understand the cybersecurity part. So for that, I would highly recommend, Priyanka, that you've got AI ML knowledge, but now pursue some certifications like CH, where you can understand the cybersecurity part, like how the attacks takes place, how the hacking takes place, and a few things about defensive security. But again, even if you just understand the hacking part or the offensive part of security, you would understand how the attacks are created, so that when you join any organization and the organization asks you to build what you call a model, you can relate that, okay, this is the attack for which we are making it. So I would highly recommend that you enhance your cybersecurity knowledge with certifications like Security Plus CH to start with. I hope that clears your doubt, Priyanka. Priyank, sorry. Okay, perfect. Any other questions from anyone? So I think most of the questions are answered. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, Mubarak. Thank you. So real quick, while again, Security Plus, as Yashwant very rightly mentioned, initial stage, you want to clear your concepts about cybersecurity. You want to enter the cybersecurity world. CISM, as I said, it's a management-related close certified information security manager. If you're into tactical planning, either you are in the management role, you want to enhance your skill, or you're moving to the management role. CISSP suits best for management and governance both, but if you're at the management level, doing CISSP is going to give you a huge upper hand. And because of the repo this certification has and all the content it cover, CISA is all about auditing. So if you want to pursue a career in auditing, understand because it goes both way. You want to be an auditor or you want to understand, because if like if you want to implement something to clear an audit, you should also understand the thought process of an auditor. But this is majorly for those who want to pursue a career in information security auditing. Certified information systems auditor is what it's all about. So these are the four categories. Just wanted to give a brief so that you can decide which one would be the best suited based on the job role you're pursuing right now.
Uh, so we have reached the end of the session. So where I believe the session must have helped all of you with a clear understanding about what certifications to go with and what can be your future goals and plan regarding cybersecurity certifications, right? So, and thank you so much, Abhijit, and giving us your time, valuable time, and also each one of you. Thank you very much, for joining us. Thank you once again for being part of today's masterclass, and we look forward to supporting your upskilling journey. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day or evening wherever you have joined us from.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Yashwant.